So thank you so much for joining us in this webinar with BVF and the One Planet City Challenge and CDP. We're very happy to welcome you to our talk from Vision to Action. I'm Andrea Cantillo. I'm part of the BVF Cities core team, helping with the coordination of the part of the group that is coordinating the One Planet City Challenge. In this webinar, we recognize that maybe some of you already know the One Planet City Challenge and CDP, but there are also some cities that are joining us for the first time to learn about both. So we're going to start with a brief introduction or with some explanations about both of them, the benefits of CDP reporting, and also to tell you more about the One Planet City Challenge. And we will also then afterwards go into the topic, into how does it work to join through CDP-ICLEI Track to the One Planet City Challenge, and how you can fulfill your OPCC reporting obligations. Before we go into everything, and we will as well finalize with a Q&A. But before we go into everything, I want to say that I'm also joined here by our great colleagues from CDP, Etienne and Leah. So very happy to have you in this session with us, and we will be listening to you shortly. And also we have some BVF colleagues here helping us with logistics, with the chat. They will be answering your questions and then also be here in the background helping us run this session. So thank you to Eduardo, Saskia, and Sabina for that. Yes, so without, actually, you're welcome to please ask questions in the chat. And then when we are in the Q&A, you're welcome to raise your hand and speak up if you would want as well. So now I welcome Etienne, who will tell us about the benefits of CDP reporting.
Hi, thank you everyone. Thank you, Andrea. And first of all, we are very honored to have been selected by the WWF as a reporting platform for the OPCC this year again. So CDP was formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project, cdp.net, if you want to Google it. It's an NGO, a global NGO. And so we work across the world with cities, states and regions, companies and investors for them to disclose their climate data, climate information, because we understand that information is the fundamental basis for action. We also go by the motto of you can't manage what you don't measure. So that's why we are here, to help you measure your climate information also as a city, and in particular in the context of the OPCC, but we will come back to that soon in this webinar. Some general figure about CDP activity annually. So we exist since 2000. We work with cities. We have been working with cities for more than 15 years now. And annually, about 1,000 cities, states, and regions report their climate data on the CDP-ICLEI Track platform. That's the full name of the platform. That's about 12% of the global population, 8% of the greenhouse gas emissions globally, and even 90% of the Brazilian Amazons. On the next slides, we will show you where exactly those municipalities, cities, and other local government were based in 2024. So we, like, in more than 100 countries, actually even more than 130 countries if we count all the years of activities of the program. And on the next slide, it shows you where, how it works with the so-called disclosure cycle. So every year we invite local government around the world to respond to a questionnaire. So that's what we call disclosed data. And for cities, it's on the CDP-ICLEI Track platform or portal. Once you have disclosed, you are given a few months to disclose, by the way, and you will learn more about that in a few minutes. But once you have disclosed, CDP in step 3 aggregates all the data collected from all the municipalities. And then in step 4 and 5, we share it with the main users of those data. So in step 4, we share it publicly on the so-called open data portal. So we share it with anyone interested in cities climate data. It could be researcher, but also international decision makers. For example, the UN, the UNFCCC uses the CDP's data, for example, for the IPCC report and so on, but also networks and associations of municipalities or campaigns and initiatives that work with cities and regions around the world to improve their climate action. And WWF is one of them. You can see from the logos what are the other organizations we work with and have chosen CDP as a one-stop shop reporting platform this year. Yeah, and then in step 6, once the data is shared with those networks, you receive your benefit, your bespoke benefit as a member of the OPCC, member of ICLEI, member of the Global Covenant of Mayors, and all the other networks the data has been shared with. The next slide will finish this first section. It encapsulates every side of benefits that I've already started to talk about. So on the left-hand side, you get comprehensive support means that, yeah, it's a two-way learning, say loop, or it's a learning loop. When you disclose your data to CDP, you actually also learn along the way, because your data gaps will also show you where you as a municipality can still collect new data or learn. And you receive a feedback loop from CDP. For example, if your climate GHG emission reduction target is science-based or not. And ultimately, you also receive a score from CDP from A to D-. And this score is, by the way, strictly confidential, private. Only you will have access to it unless you get the best score, which is A. So in the second benefits, you see report just once for all your commitment. That's what I've started to talk about in the previous slide. So if your organizations belong or is a member or participate in multiple campaigns that have chosen CDP-ICLEI Track as a reporting platform, then you only report once per year for all those commitments. That's the benefit of choosing this platform. And I will move to the last one in the interest of time, Attract Finance. So on the Attract Finance side of benefits, I think here you should understand that among those data users that I've briefly mentioned before, some will be investors. We work actually with more than 700 investors around the world that receives data from companies, but as well as from cities, and cities declaring needs, finance needs for their infrastructure project, for example. So you potentially can have some matchmaking benefits through reporting to CDP if you declare this type of project needed to finance. So I stop here because that's not the main subject of the webinar today. Really, you're here to learn more how to participate to the OPCC. So, oh yeah, there was one last slide, sorry, that was briefly shown that from a previous participant, Freetown, that has provided some nice feedback to CDP about their reporting experience in the previous year. But now, next slide, over to you, to Andrea, for the OPCC more specifically.
Thank you so much for that run through, Etienne. We are, as you mentioned, super happy to collaborate with you in the One Planet City Challenge. So I will just first say a little bit about WWF. WWF is a leading global environmental and nature conservation organization. Our mission spans biodiversity protection, climate action, and sustainable development, always with people and planet at the center, which is why we have a program for cities, because we believe that cities are powerful engines of change. While they drive much of today's consumption and emissions, they also hold the key to many solutions. So that's why we want to work with cities and why we find it so important. And also why we have our flagship program, the One Planet City Challenge. We can go to the next slide, through which we aim to give you guidance, tools, and tailored feedback to support your climate journey, whether you are a starting city or whether you are very advanced in your strategies. So this is very important. It doesn't matter in which part of your climate journey you're at. You can participate of the One Planet City Challenge. You can report in CDP, and you will be able to reap benefits either way in which scale you are, if you're a very starting city or a more advanced city. So to speak a little bit more about what these benefits are, I want to speak about 4 reasons to join the OPCC. There are many, maybe, but some 4 reasons. So the first one, to assess and strengthen your climate work. Then we have to connect and be part of a global community, and for you to display and enhance your reputation and work as well. All of this while you do it in a very simple way through your reporting. And I want to share here that some of our cities have said that the OPCC has encouraged them to prepare a more ambitious climate change strategy. So let us go a little bit more into what these reasons mean and why is it that you can do these things. So to assess and strengthen your climate work, you will get clarity to see if your targets align with a 1.5 future or a future below 1.5, and get guidance on key actions to cut emissions and build resilience. This part of the target, we know that is, for example, very important for cities that are part of the race to zero, because we want to have a target to know what our goal is. But cities don't always know if their target is actually aligned with science. And then in the assessment that we do in the OPCC, we will tell you that. We will tell you how aligned you are or not. And we will also give you guidance into how to have a more aligned target if it is the case that you're not aligned. And if you are, then you have that check, and then you know that that it is the case, which is great. And then we also give you an assessment of the most significant climate hazards faced by your city and how your actions address them. And then for the second one, in terms of connecting and being part of a global community, this is because we recognized if you have the opportunity to be recognized as a front-runner city, working for a climate resilient future and engage with your citizens. We have by participating in the OPCC, you also get the opportunity to participate in a public engagement campaign where our front runners are invited to connect with their citizens, to learn what is it that their citizens believe about their climate work and their sustainability work. It's not always easy to have this interaction with our citizens and our constituencies. So then our public engagement campaign really aims to help you with that, to break that. Yes, and then you also get the opportunity to collaborate and exchange knowledge with peers, with other sustainability leads and other cities. As for example, here we have seen that we have such a variety of cities from so many places in the world. And we know that cities are unique. You have unique challenges, but you also have similar challenges. So there is always the opportunity to learn from each other and get to see how you can collaborate with each other. In previous rounds, we had some amazing exchanges among our cities that it was a little bit of like, oh, you're working on that. This is great. Once you have it figured out, I want to learn more about what you're doing, and maybe I want to buy the green steel that your city is working to have. So it's really a community and an opportunity for you to engage with each other and learn from each other. And then to display, we have to enhance your reputation and work as the third reason, if we go to the next slide. And then again, this is the opportunity to be publicly recognized for your climate efforts, nationally and internationally. Since as VVF, we will help you with this, with our frontrunner cities, the most high scoring cities. And you also have the opportunity to share your work, as I just mentioned a little bit before, both because we would invite you into our global webinars as speakers to share your work, or that we will create case studies that will go into our Urban Solutions webpage. At the same time, we have heard from our cities before that the way that we communicate and that we encapsulate your work has really helped you to refine as well how you communicate your climate work. So this is also a great advantage, because it will drive you to have better conversations maybe with your politicians to get more buy-in into the work that you are doing. So for example, if it's the case of creating climate targets, that your politicians will be more convinced into being like, yes, okay, I will support this climate target. We had that experience with some of our cities, that they used our assessment to drive that buy-in from their politician leaders. Yes, and then for the fourth one, it's very related to what Etienne was saying before. We do this through CDP-ICLEI Track, and it is a very simplified way of doing so, because then you will get to reap all the advantages of reporting in one place, both of getting our assessment from the One Planet City Challenge, but also all the support from CDP, and also the scoring from CDP, and maybe other initiatives that are also part of this, like the Race to Zero. So then you get to do it all in one place at once. Then from this, we have seen, if we go to the next slide, that we have had very happy cities that have really enjoyed being part of the One Planet City Challenge. 83% of cities have said that they would likely join the OPCC again. And we have received a score of 4.4 in our program. So why is this? Why do cities feel that they want to come back? This is because in addition to what I have mentioned before, we also help cities also get the chance to refine their work, to enhance areas of their climate work. They get to influence and lead global city development, and then again, they get to have more opportunities to display and amplify their work. So just to speak a little bit more about the first two, because I believe I have spoken quite already about amplifying your reputation and work, but we have, in terms of enhancing areas of your climate work, we have the experience of some cities that, for example, have the first time that they participated in the OPCC, they were like, okay, we will take this opportunity to engage in one area of our climate work, and it will be electricity. And then along the way, that when they have continued joining the program in the different rounds that we've had, they've said, okay, now this round we will focus in transport. So it's really taking that opportunity of participating in the OPCC, and also taking parts of the assessment that we give them, for them to focus in part of the work that they want to elaborate and enhance in their cities. So this is, for example, one way of doing so. And then for leading global city development, this is more related to the fact that we, as VVF, also hear a lot about pilot programs that are created to see how cities' work can be furthered, how they can improve. And then we hear from our partner organizations or other organizations, they ask us, do you know about a city that is working on this, or different cities? We will want to bring them in here. So then by you being in the One Planet City Challenge and us knowing about your work, you will be in top of mind, and then we will be able to speak about you and then reach out to them when they reach out to us and say like, yes, I think you can collaborate with this one. We have heard that this one is doing this and this. So then it also helps again to amplify your work, but also it helps you to have a say into developments on that are driving guidances on what cities how cities should engage in their sustainability work. And then, yes, so this is a little bit for reasons, but a little bit more tangible, exactly what is it that you get if you want like something that you grasp right away. If we go into the next slides, in the next one, I will show you, we have the strategic feedback report, which is where we will assess what you have reported in CDP. This is what we will give you. We heard from Aman Jordan that the OPCC report was one of the best reports they've received regarding their climate action work, because the report was comprehensive, it was direct, it was user-friendly, and it was easy to read. So, yeah. And then this is similar to what I mentioned before with the example of how cities have taken parts of the report to speak to their political parties or to speak to their constituencies, because they get to see their work framed in a complete different way that maybe they hadn't seen before. And then it gives them other opportunities to speak with others about what they are doing. So a little bit more about this. The report it follows the city climate journey, the 5 steps of the city climate journey. And then if we go to the next slide, I'll show you a little bit how it looks or what is included. So we have your city's fair share of the Paris Agreement, what I had mentioned about looking to see if your target is aligned with the Paris Agreement. Then also we get to see your mitigation and action plan. How are you doing in relation to that? And as well to your adaptation priorities. And in these cases, we also give you some advice or show some case studies of cities that have already worked in these areas that we are putting there to you, that maybe you can explore more. And then if we go to the next slide. Yes, in this round, this is new for this round of the OPCC. We are launching an online tool to which you will have access in 2026. There you will get to see actionable insights. You will get to see our report. You will get interactive data summaries in there. And then you will also have the opportunity to explore a little bit, ask questions and explore more the assessment that the OPCC creates for you. And if we go to the next slide, this is just to show you again once more the fact that we want to, we also build case studies based on your work, which is put out in an Urban Solutions webpage. And then for the next slide, just again about our public engagement campaign, which OPCC frontrunners would be invited to join in. For my last slide, I just want to show you a little bit what the OPCC looks in practice now that we have learned everything, all the advantages that come with it, and then also what we give you tangibly with it as well. But how does it work? So the OPCC is a 2-year program. It starts with registration and reporting. We are right now here for you to report in CDP-ICLEI Track. Once you have reported and submitted publicly your information, we take that information out, we do an assessment and review where we put out our strategic feedback report. Then you get it, you get the feedback from it. We also build capacity building sessions similar to what we're having right now for different topics that we know and have seen that are important for you. And also in some of them is where we will invite some of you as well to speak about the work that you're doing. Then you get to have this engagement and mobilization with our public engagement campaign. And lastly, we have the part of recognition and celebration where we really aim to celebrate all the work that our cities are doing. And also if you were selected as some of our top scoring cities, both nationally and internationally, then we will give you the space for this. So with that, I will leave you in the hands of Leah, who will speak more about, okay, now I'm so into the OPCC, I want to join, let me, tell me how. So Leah will give us a little bit of more guidance on that.
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, and so I'm now going to cover a bit more of the technical aspect of how you can actually start reporting and onboard on CDP-ICLEI Track. So first of all, you might wonder how you can actually get access to CDP-ICLEI Track. And here I'd like to differentiate between the users that are maybe also in this webinar that have already participated in the 2023 OPCC and have reported last year. So you will have received an email in the last couple of weeks inviting you to on board and to report your data again to CDP in 2025. And for those of you that are new, either you are a member of a new city that would like to join the OPCC for the first time, or maybe you are part of a city that has reported before, but you're a new colleague, you will receive an invitation with an activation link in the coming days so that you can onboard, set up a password, and then have access to the questionnaire. For returning cities, it's also important to note that this year is a stability year for CDP. So that means there have been minimal changes with regards to the questionnaire, only 2 changes that I'm going to explain later on in this webinar. And also that the copy forward function works. So that means all your data from 2024 has been copied into the 2025 questionnaire, except for the attachments. So now, once you have clicked on the link in your invitation email and have set up your password, you would land on this onboarding page. And I think I would be drawn immediately to the blue banner. This is the banner that helps you through the setup procedure. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but I'd like to highlight as well that if you look here on the right bottom, there's a link to our help center where you can ask additional questions. And you can also find your regional contact points here at the bottom at engagement support. And I'd just also like to highlight the navigation panel here on the left, where you can just directly navigate to your team members, to the questionnaire, to requests. I'm going to talk about them in a little bit because the OPCC is the request from WWF. And then before I do so, I just quickly like to zoom in on the settings button because this is a global campaign, so people speak multiple languages among the participants. And in the settings button, you can choose the languages that are supported by our portal. So that would be English, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, and Chinese. So these are languages that you can choose here. However, if your preferred language is a different language, you can still use Google Translate, for example, to translate the questionnaire. And I've put in a screenshot here. So if you were to use Google Chrome, often you can just right-click and then translate it into Turkish or whatever the language is that you would like to use. And it works really well. And we've done some improvements on this automatic translations. Even drop-down menus will be fully translated. And I'd like to highlight as well that often the questionnaire has text boxes where you can just write an open response. And here, no matter in which language the questionnaire is displayed, you can respond in the language of your preference. Now going back to the onboarding process. So the first thing that you would have to do is confirm a submission lead. And you can do that as well by navigating to the invite team member section. So what you would do as the next step is you would have a look if all the team members that you want to be part of your reporting team are already there. Otherwise, you click the red button and you invite some new team members. You put in their email address and then they will receive an invitation link as well. And then one person among your team needs to become the submission lead. So here under role and visibility, you can see in orange, it says disclosure role. And here, this person would have to select that they are becoming the submission lead, meaning they will be the person who submits the questionnaire when the deadline approaches. After you've accepted the submission lead, the next step would be to set up the questionnaire. Here, you will receive a question, or like 3 questions rather, that will define the recommended pathway. And the per capita emissions and the Human Development Index are already pre-populated, but you can change the data if you would like. What we would ask you to do is just indicate your jurisdiction population. And then based on that, we will recommend pathway 1 to 3. 1 has the lowest reporting burden, That would be around 28 questions, I believe. And pathway 3 is the most ambitious one for cities that tend to have the highest amount of emissions and a very high human development index. And that would be around 40 questions, I believe. But this is just a recommendation from our part. You can always overrule this and choose a more ambitious or less ambitious pathway. So you can afterwards select the pathway of your preference. And what's important to note is that even if you choose pathway 1, the one with the lowest reporting burden, you can still participate in the OPCC, you can still receive a CDP score, and if you're part of the Global Covenant of Mayors, you will also receive all your badges. Then the last step of the onboarding process would be to have a look at your requests. And so you can see here that there's an existing tab and an optional tab. And for the new cities among you, for example, if you were to click on the optional tab, you would see the One Planet City Challenge, and then the requester is WWF. And there's a little arrow on the right-hand side. And if you could click on that, you will see a pop-up, which then says, would you like to become a member of this project? And you can say, yes, I would like to join. And then you're part of the One Planet City Challenge. And for those of you that have already participated in 2023, you actually do not need to take action. You continue to be a member and you would find your membership under existing. After you've done that, you are fully set up to respond or to update your 2025 questionnaire. And I'm just going to talk a little bit now about how you can best fill it out, with regards to the One Planet City Challenge. So, as I mentioned, you used to see this blue banner on the top on the landing page, which helped you with the setup. And once you've completed this banner will turn into what you can see here at the top. You will see an overview of your questionnaire progress and a button that says Continue Questionnaire. So once you click on that, you will see a more detailed overview with all the questionnaire sections, and as well the opportunity to click Reviewed or to skip certain questions. And if we zoom in a little bit more into a question level, here we can see an example of question 1.2. I'd like to highlight that you can always access guidance for each question. So at the top right, you can see this little booklet that gives you help text, example answers, access to the CDP scoring methodology if that was of interest to you. And here at the bottom right, you can see that you can mark questions as reviewed, for example. And then, and this is important for the OPCC, this tag tab allows you to have a look whether this question is indeed relevant for the One Planet City Challenge. If you still have questions, you can always reach out to our CDP Help Center. You can raise a ticket there and we aim to respond within 48 hours. And now if we have a look a bit more at the content of the CDP questionnaire, this is what it covers. So first of all, we have the governance section. In this section, we ask you questions about how your municipality operates, which are the entities you're collaborating with, and just some general questions with regards to how you're governing your jurisdiction. Then in the assessment part, we would have a look at how climate change affects your municipality. So what kind of risks and vulnerabilities are you experiencing? Have you already conducted a climate risks and vulnerability assessment? And then we would have a look as well as to how your municipality contributes to climate change through the emissions that are occurring within your jurisdiction. And we would ask if you already have a greenhouse gas emissions inventory and to report data on that. And then we will ask some sector-specific data, so that would typically be transport and waste and energy. Once we know what the situation is on the ground, the assessment part is done. The next step would be to set goals to address the climate risks and the emissions in your jurisdiction. So we would ask you to report adaptation goals and emission reduction targets, and then any sector-specific targets, again, waste-related or transport-related, for example. After that, you can upload any climate action plans you may already have. So that could be an integrated climate action plan, or it could be 2 separate documents, an adaptation plan and a separate mitigation plan. And last but not least, we would ask you to upload the most or report on the most impactful adaptation actions that you're undertaking, and mitigation actions. As I mentioned, there are 2 minor changes this year, and they really are minor, and they do not really affect the copy forward functionality. So it's just in the target section in question 6.1.1, we have made 1 column mandatory, just because that helps to make sure that subsequently you see the correct fields, because some are sometimes blocked. So it was helpful to make this cell mandatory. So that's what we've done. And then in 7.1, we have just added the option to report no target here, because that wasn't an option before. So now I would like to just give you a few reporting tips, just given the experience that we have with cities and the mistakes that they sometimes make, especially if it's the first time around. So the first recommendation here would really be to just make sure to allow yourself enough time, ideally around 3 weeks, because it's a complex questionnaire. There's a lot of, especially the sector data might be something that you don't necessarily know from the top of your head. So you might have to reach out to colleagues in the transport team or and so this might take a little bit of time for them to come back to you. So ideally calculate around 3 weeks for your reporting exercise. And then also make sure that you identify key members in your team that should support you with the reporting. Make sure they're on the portal, and ideally allocate certain sections of the questionnaire to them. I'd also like to highlight that it's best to not leave any cells empty, because if it's left empty, we cannot really analyze that as a response. However, if you just instead insert that the information is not available, this will be information that we can actually evaluate and then provide feedback on. CDP also offers a free response check in the summer month, the European summer month. So it's typically around July, August. Here we can check the quality and coherence of your response. So yeah, feel free to reach out to your regional teams and ask for a response check, but also here allow us some time, ideally 2 weeks, to come back to you, because we manually will assess your draft response and make some recommendations. And then last but not least, before submitting, I would suggest that the submission lead has a look over all the responses again and just marks the questions as reviewed when they're completely finalized, so that you can ensure that you have a complete response. Now I'll just quickly speak to common reporting mistakes. So the first one here would be with regards to the attachments. And I have mentioned that already before, but so while all the manually inserted data is copied forward, the attachments are not copied forward. So you need to upload them every year. And here there are 2 ways of doing it. So first of all, you upload it, and then you need to confirm that you have uploaded it. And there are several options here. You can either just select, yes, the document has been attached, or you could also say, the document can be accessed in the link that I've provided here. Or you can do both. You can say it has been attached and I've also provided the link. The next one would be about forgetting your climate plan or incorrectly selecting the plan type in question 8.1.1. What this means is either often cities have an integrated plan or they have an adaptation and a mitigation plan. So just make sure that you indicate, if it's an integrated plan, that it really covers both. Or then otherwise, if it's an adaptation and a mitigation plan, make sure that you report it in 2 separate rows in our questionnaire and label it correctly, so that we can take it into account and that you actually have both covered, adaptation and mitigation. And the last slide on common mistakes is about not fully reporting your adaptation goals or mitigation targets. So in 5.1.1, the adaptation goal, the common mistake would be as follows. Cities are asked to report an adaptation goal, and this will mean that they'll have to give it a number and then subsequently a title as well. And subsequently, the goal should also address a climate hazard, ideally one that you've reported as well in the assessment section before. And the target year of this adaptation goal must be in the future. So this as well as maybe a helpful remark for those that have reported already last year. Double check if you still have goals where the target year was 2024, because either you've achieved it, then it's no longer a goal that you need to report, Or you might, if you haven't achieved it quite yet, you might need to change the target year to 2025 or later. And then with regards to the mitigation target 611, I would highlight here that this is the most complex question of our questionnaire. So do feel free to reach out to our regional teams or to the WWF colleagues if you feel like you need some support with that question. Here, my first recommendation is to be very clear about the target type that you want to report, because it could be a fixed term target, it could be an absolute target, and depending on the first selection that you make, the target type, other cells will become available or not be visible to you. So just be sure that you're reporting on the correct target type. And then make sure that the boundary of your target is the same or larger than the one of your jurisdiction. Then make sure that you report on the carbon credits, that whether they are used or were currently used, or whether you're planning to use them to achieve your goal. Check as well the target year, it should be in the future, and the net emissions in your target year. And then the last two comments, they're not required for fixed level targets, but for example, for absolute targets, please report as well on the base year and the percentage of emissions reduction. Those are the common reporting tips, but yeah, do feel free to reach out to your regional team. We're very happy to help you with this, especially question 611. But yeah, with this, I'll pass back to Andrea about what's next.
Yes, thank you for all those tips, Leah. It's very nice to have an understanding of how the portal works, how CDP-ICLEI Track works. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, for what's next, we are right now in this part of reporting. As I mentioned before, CDP-ICLEI Track has opened. You are welcome, as Leah has just explained to us, to join in and start your reporting. Your reporting needs to be submitted publicly to participate in the OPCC. And we welcome you to report by the week of 15th of September in order for you to have all the benefits of reporting in CDP, because by then it will be the deadline for CDP scoring, and then maybe for other initiatives as well. As well, if you report in that moment, you will in any case get the opportunity to amend your response, which means that you can go back into what you have answered, or maybe questions that you have missed, and go back and revise them until the week of 19th of November. You need to have reported and submitted, so answering the questionnaire and submitted your answers by the week of 19th of November for us at the One Planet City Challenge to be able to extract your data and do the assessment. So you have some time to make sure that your reporting is as the best as you can make it in that moment, as the best of your possibility, as coherently as possible, of course. And yes, then you will get from us, from the One Planet City Challenge, you will get our strategic feedback in 2026. I can then give the word to you, Leah, for the next part as well.
Yes, also some next steps from our end. So for new users, again, like those that are completely new cities that want to start reporting, and new users of cities that have reported, but it's the first time that this user would report, you will receive an email with an invitation to CDP-ICLEI Track in the coming days, around Friday, 4th of July. And yeah, in this email, you'll find the link, your activation link to go to the portal. For existing users, you can just simply log into the CDP portal. The link is here in the slides, and Saskia is also going to put them in the chat, the link. And yeah, then the next step would be to decide who in your team should be the submission lead. And this person should then select that role on the portal. And then in the next step, the submission lead should join the One Planet City Challenge via the requests page if you wish to participate in that campaign. And then you can begin to either update your data or start reporting for the first time. And if you've got any questions, as I mentioned, our regional teams are there to support you. I put the email addresses here in the chat. So we have teams in North America, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, as well as Latin America and Asia Pacific. And of course, WWF also have their national offices, so you can reach out to WWF as well for further support. That's it from my side, and I think we can then move on to the questions and answer session.
Yes, let's move to this question and answer section. I had a little bit of a hiccup with my computer for a second, so I lost a little bit of the chat. So I will invite everyone that may have questions to raise your hand. Please do so. If you have already shared them in the chat, write them in the chat, but you will still want to raise them, please put your hand up. I know that everyone has been very diligent answering your questions in the chat, so thank you to the team for that. But maybe while people warm up, I can ask to you, Leah and Etienne, maybe to repeat if it has been shared before, but after this, if a city will want to create a CDP account, what should they do?
Yeah, happy to take that one. So for everybody who's in this webinar here, they will receive an invitation email. And in this email, there's just a link that they need to click on, and that will take them to our portal, and they'll be asked to set up a password. And then they'll be affiliated to the city that they have mentioned that they are part of when they registered for this webinar. And if there are colleagues who are not part of this webinar, for example, but it's already a city that reports, you can just simply add the colleague to your account. If you just add their email address, they'll get an invitation as well. And if you just want to recommend CDP-ICLEI Track to somebody who's not at all part of this webinar and has never reported before, you can just visit our website, and there's also a registration form that you can fill in there.
Great.
And because there was a specific question from Maria Magdalena for participants who may have already contacted CDP or WWF about creating accounts. I'm sorry. I see. Yeah. Creating accounts. So in the previous weeks, yeah, it will be done in the next day. So a little bit more patience, and we will contact you and share with you also the same link that Leah mentioned.
Great. And we also had a question here. If the invitation from Enzo Villacorta, if the invitation that you will send will be sent to the email that they used to register to this webinar. I think
Yes.
Yes, exactly. That's what we'll do.
Great. Good.
There was a question about what we call the copy forward of responses 2023, for example, into the response 2025. And there was a question from Tuan. Maybe we can take this one.
Yes. So since in 2023, we still were on the old portal, and since 2024, we've moved to a much improved portal. So unfortunately, the actual automatic copy forward from the old portal to the new portal has not worked as such. But you have still access to your response, to your 2023 response, even if you log into the new CDP portal. So that should help you to just copy it over. Unfortunately, this will have to be done manually. But all your responses are there, so you should be able to hopefully do it quite quickly. And then once you are on the new portal, it will always copy forward to the next years.
Yeah, and it implies that there was a submission in 2023, right? Just populating without submitting is unfortunately does not capture the information, right? So this is always important. We have every year a few participants that just start the process but never submit, never finish it, and in this case the data is lost.
Great. That's a very good recommendation, Etienne, that you make on people submitting. And it's also very important to be able to be part of the OPCC for us. And also, I understand for CDP scoring, you really need to submit for us to be able to catch your data and be able to give you the assessments and feedback. And under that, I can just mention that Once you submit, you always get the opportunity to amend after, and you get to amend until the 19th of November. So you get to continue improving your reporting for OPCC purposes, as in 19th November is the last bit of information, is the last moment that you can submit for us to get that information and do your assessment based on that. And so after your reporting 15 September, you always get the amendment period to improve your reporting, as we know that maybe some cities are new here, so they might need a little bit of extra time for that. About the copy forward, we have a question now from Bjorn. Where in the platform can cities access their 2023 data?
Leah, you're mute.
Thank you. So when you go to the landing page after you've logged in, you'll see a rubric or like a section called Data and Insights. And if you click on there, all your previous year data should be available there. And if you have any problems, just reach out to us and we can also like send it to you again, but you should be able to access it through the Data and Insights section.
Question about the pathway from Lotta. I see it, like, can we change pathway after the selection?
Yes, you can always change the pathway, and you will no data loss will occur. It will just add data or hide data, depending on whether you get more ambitious or less ambitious in your pathway selection. Sorry, I'm not sure if I said that correctly. So it will either add questions or hide data. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, once more. We have a question from Mirza Janto. And they are trying to start with the questionnaire now, but are directed to submit the questionnaire setup. Do they need to wait until the setup is reviewed before they can continue with the questionnaire?
I'm happy to maybe like discuss this one via email after the webinar. But yeah, so I think maybe the issue lies with that you haven't accepted a submission lead yet, or nobody has chosen that role so far. Because yeah, so you need to complete the questionnaire setup before you can fill in the questionnaire.
Okay. So maybe the recommendation would be to please write to one of the CDP emails to have guidance on this.
So follow the instructions from the blue banner, accept the submission lead role if it's yourself, and then select the pathway, and then check if you're still in the OPCC. So those are the 3 steps. And then the blue banner should turn into the questionnaire, so you should no longer see it. And yeah, if that doesn't work, I'm happy to have a chat after this.
Great, thank you. I wanted to bring back a question that we got earlier in the webinar. Can a smaller district administration, which is still developing and have relatively lesser climate data, be able to report in this cycle? And I just want to say yes, yes. You are very welcome to report in CDP, to join the OPCC, the One Planet City Challenge. Even if you are a smaller district, even if you are in your start of the climate journey, you are very welcome to join in, because it is a journey as well that you go through with us. So you can start where you are, and then we will advise you based on what you have reported.
And just to add to this, maybe, Andrea, also when we talk about the CDP score, this is a private score that's only visible to your municipality unless you reach directly the A score, which is the leadership score. So all the feedback that you receive from CDP as well, on top of the One Planet City Challenge and so on, is all private and is just aimed at helping you in your climate journey. I'll stop sharing the screen and we'll have a look at the chat, and feel free to raise your hand as well and just ask away.
Yes, we have actually one question from Paula. She was wondering, Leah, about what you mentioned in terms of the the opportunity to get this feedback on the answers. So you said that it will happen between July and August, but when is the latest that a city could ask for this review?
Yeah, we're going to confirm that probably in one of the next reminder emails that we're sending out. But yeah, so the dates are still to be confirmed, but normally it would be in the 2 months ahead of, or like up until a month before the submission deadline. But there's some flexibility. It all depends on capacity in the end. So the earlier you ask for a response check, the higher the chances that we'll have time to accommodate it. And we'll confirm the dates in one of the next mail outs.
Great, thank you. And while everyone gets warmed up with their questions, just once more, you're very welcome to raise your hand and then we will give you the word, or you're welcome to write them in the chat as well if that is more comfortable. You're also welcome to ask them in Spanish or Portuguese, as we have our interpreters that will help us with that. I just want to ask you, Leah, you just mentioned that we will share with cities, or you will share a link with our participants here in the webinar to join CDP. Can you tell us also a little bit more of how it generally can happen for cities that to join the portal, to join CDP-ICLEI Track?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, exactly. So if you are registering to this webinar, you will receive an invitation email with the link. If you are already a user, we've put the link to just log into the portal here in the chat. And you can also just visit our website, cdp.net. There's a registration form there as well that you could use if you wanted to sign up.
Another question here in the chat, we have, are there any extra questions on the OPCC track, or is about the OPCC in the CDP-ICLEI track, or is the questionnaire the same? So is the only additional thing we need to do is link to OPCC via the tags. So once you click in the One Planet City Challenge, as Leah mentioned before, you go into the questionnaire and then the questions of the OPCC will show up in there. Yes. I don't know if, yeah, maybe that's all that we need to know. Or maybe Etienne and Leah, I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
Yeah, and there was a question whether there are any changes to the questionnaire, if I understood that correctly. So just to confirm, there are no changes, just the 2 bits about the cells in the target section that I have mentioned, but they do not affect copy forwarded data. It's just whether an option was added. You can now report that you do not have a target, and you can one cell has been made mandatory in order to be able to proceed. So nothing that should affect a previous response.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Nelson in the chat about the cost of participating in the One Planet City Challenge. And I just want to say that it's free. You do not need to pay anything. So you're all very welcome to join us and participating.
And just to add, like CDP-ICLEI Track is also completely free because we are an environmental an NGO.
Thank you for that. We also had a question from Inés Medina around if it's possible to for multiple municipalities to report together, or if it has to be a municipality on their own. And I've learned that we talk about municipalities differently in different countries, and it tends to mean different things. So what I would encourage you to do in these cases, if you're unsure, is that you can reach out to us to the OPCC email, and then we can guide you into how it works. You can let us know with which municipalities you're thinking about, which countries is it that you're coming from, and then we can guide you on that, and of course also connect you with CDP in that case as well.
Yes, exactly. If I may add something here, so it's technically possible. The questionnaire is universal. We accept metropolitan municipalities, for example, groupings of municipalities. But before doing that, we need to warn you that every member municipality may also be invited may also be member of some multiple initiatives, may also have accepted the invitation of WWF, and therefore it creates duplicates. So we want to avoid that. Also, in interest of the personnel working in those municipalities, in the intermunicipality, and therefore it's better if you check with us first before we take any action.
Thank you, Tim. That's a very good information to have. I want to give the word to Maurice, and then we take more from the chat. So Maurice, please.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I really appreciate your support towards this reporting. I just want to know whether we can be able to get support to bring, rather to convene teams from different sectors. For example, where I come from, that is Nairobi. The information is actually not in one sector, and therefore I have to reach out to my colleagues from other sectors or departments so that I can be able to put all that information together. So I don't know whether now or in the near future we can be able to think a way through which we can be able to get support through which we can have all these teams together for the purpose of them being aligned with this kind of reporting, and also, to sensitize them so that they can also be very supportive to this disclosure.
Hi, Maurice. Nice to actually hear you again. We're actually working together because I work with African cities as well. Yeah, that's a very important issue that you highlight. It's very common, and it's difficult. Like, I wish I could give you a solution right now. What I would say is CDP, or the CDP-ICLEI questionnaire is a holistic questionnaire, so it can be a place to try to overcome fragmentation in the sense that you can invite colleagues from the waste department, transport department to become a user as well, and then fill in that section themselves, and then you will have this holistic report that will be stored centrally on our system, and you can look at it over several years. So in this sense, CDP-ICLEI Track is attempting to overcome fragmentation through the way in which we do data collection. But yeah, there's a lot to be done, and that's of course only a tiny step in this direction.
Great. Thank you, Leah. I'm looking at the time and I want to be very respectful of everyone's time. So let's take your question, Antonio, one more from the chat, and then...
Yeah, I was in the middle of responding to it. So this is the question about the pathway selection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Yeah, so the pathway selections, 1, 2, or 3, will indeed determine the total number of questions you will see. But if you join the OPCC beforehand, all the relevant questions of the OPCC will surface in the questionnaire, no matter the pathways. When I say all the relevant questions, I must say these are all the required and recommended questions by the OPCC. If you ask your local OPCC support, you will discover that there are also some desirable questions. So those are less important, less relevant, and they will not surface. For example, if you are on the lower pathway. Don't know if, yeah, we want to go in that level of details, but you will be fully eligible to a PCC no matter the pathway, in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I just want to raise something that I saw here in the chat regarding the question that we answered before on if the OPCC has extra questions. I believe Eleni, she clarified that she was trying to understand if there is extra work to report to OPCC as well, like if it's a lot of work after that. So just to say that to everyone that maybe is not reading the chat, that it is not extra work at all. Because it is part of the same questionnaire. So that's the great benefit, that it has to report to CDP-ICLEI Track and joining the OPCC through CDP, that everything gets condensed in one, so then the work is way less. So yes. Okay, well, thank you very much for this session, everyone.